Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's meeting. We'll go ahead and we have a couple more people popping in, so I'm just going to give it another minute. Where'd you go?
Did you take back host?
Yes. Are you still recording?
I'm still recording.
Okay, perfect. And welcome to
Can you guys see the window, like where you all are on my screen?
I can see.
No.
Okay.
We can just see the presentation.
Okay, because I didn't want to block stuff.
All right, so we will go ahead. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being somewhere else. We're just attendance, and Caitlin is going to tell you that.
Yes, if everyone could please go in the public chat and just write your first and last name as well as your Eagle Mail. 5 or more meetings, you get honor cords from FPRA. So if you could enter that stuff, it would help us out.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Caitlin. And then I'm just going to give you a reminder to please turn your microphones off during the presentation until the very end when we open it up for questions. And then I will also remind you that if you have your cameras on, which I hope you do, because this is a great networking opportunity, to just, keep it professional, because we are professionals here at FGCU FPRA. All right, so our speaker today is Ashley Loubier. I don't know if I said that right. Loubier, okay. She is the education chair for the professional FPRA chapter in Southwest Florida. So you will see a lot of her throughout the semester because she comes to a lot of our meetings as she is kind of our liaison. So we work with her a lot and she is amazing. She's also the communications specialist for the city of Fort Myers, and she's going to talk to us about both of those things today.
Yeah. So hi, everyone. Thank you guys for letting me speak. It's always great to see everyone. So like she said, my name is Ashley Loubier. I'm a communication specialist for the city of Fort Myers government. So if you've ever been downtown Fort Myers, I work at City Hall. It's one of the tallest buildings with a bunch of black windows, kind of where all the Lee County administrative buildings are as well. And just a little bit about me real quick. I was born and raised in Kissimmee, Florida, Orlando area. I went to St. Cloud High School and I graduated in 2016. My parents were kind of thinking about moving to the area. My grandma has been here for a long time in Bonita Springs, and my parents were both able to retire at 55 and decided to move here and take care of my grandma, who will be 97 this year, instead of putting her in a home. So they moved here and I kind of followed. I started at FSW where I got my AA, and then I transferred to FGCU as a junior in 2018. And then, as many of you know, you have to have an internship to graduate with our majors. So I started interning at the city of Fort Myers. My boss came to one of, she's not a professor anymore, but Phyllis Urshkowski's class. And she was on a panel and spoke about her experience, she's the public information officer. Some of you may know what that is, but I'll talk about that in a little bit. But she was looking for interns. I needed an internship and it was paid, which is so hard to find. So I was like, I'm going to apply and just see what happens. And I got it, which was amazing. So I started there in October of 2019 and I've been there ever since. And my coworker and I just got hired full-time in July as communication specialists. And I have always loved government, which is really weird because a lot of people don't really like government. My dad was in government for 30 years and I was just constantly around it, going to events with him, going to meetings, take your kid to work day. So I knew a lot about government before I even started, which was nice. And then when I was graduating, Professor Winton, who was one of my favorite people on this earth, she told me, hey, FPRA is looking for an education chair. Would you be interested? And I was like, yeah, sure. I was never able to join the club. When I went to FGCU, I had a lot of night classes and I just couldn't make it to the meetings. So I was like, yeah, it's a great way because I always wanted to get involved with it. So I applied for the position and then I got it, and been doing that ever since. And I'll talk a little bit more about FPRA later on. So I don't do my job alone. Like I just said, I work for the public information officer, which is the one in the middle, the one blonde one in the middle. And then the other blonde one on the left is my coworker, Caroline. We're a great team. It's nice to have a lot of set of eyes, when you're proofreading things. We bounce ideas back off each other and we just work really well together. So one of the biggest things that we did when we first started interning, like within 2 or 3 weeks of getting the internship, they're like, hey, we're going to redo our whole entire website and you guys are going to help us. And ultimately it turned into Caroline and I doing the whole website redesign by ourselves because unfortunately our IT department is not the best. So we self-taught ourselves how to do it all by ourselves. I mean, my boss kind of helped us here and there, but we did it and we continue to do it every single day. So that's what it looked like before. And this is what it looked like after. We totally redid it, got a new logo. And it was a lot of work, but it's nice to see it now. And hard work does pay off. And so we continue to update that every day. At the top, you can kind of see there's emergency banners. That was when there was a hurricane going on. But yeah, we continue to update it. We make sub pages so residents can use our website as a resource along with our social media for information on testing sites or vaccine information, or just City of Fort Myers news. Another big thing that we did was we planned a United Way campaign. I'm sure some of you are familiar with United Way. They're a great organization. There's one of like Lee, Okeechobee, Henry, and Glades County is our local one. And we do a campaign every year. It's for employees only. And so we planned that. It was a lot of fun. We had a Valentine's Day theme because we had our kickoff on Valentine's Day. So we created social media posts before and after the event. Even though it wasn't for the public, we still wanted to let them know that we were doing this and what a great organization United Way is, because it has a lot of great resources for residents. 211, I'm sure you've probably seen that number around before. It's a helpline for people who just have questions or need something like housing. Unfortunately, there's a huge amount of homeless people in the city of Fort Myers, any big city really around the world, but we have a huge homeless population, and United Way has really helped them as best as they can. And so we sent out internal communication, a lot of emails, mass emails to every single employee with the city of Fort Myers, which is a lot. We have several different departments, and we just went around and campaigned and asked people to donate. You can either donate such amount one time or donate some of your paycheck every month or every couple of weeks. So campaigning for something like that where you're asking for money from people is really hard. COVID hadn't happened at this point, so people were a little bit more willing to give. So it was a little easier to get money out of people. Right now we're trying to planned the United Way for 2021, it's a lot harder because a lot of people have lost their jobs, or a significant other has lost their jobs and they're the only form of income in their household. It's just been a tough year, as we all know. So we're trying to figure out a way to where people are more willing to give. And last year, we were actually able to raise 30% more in the previous years, which was a record. And that was really cool to be a part of that. But a lot of what my job is planning events or helping out with events, which is really fun because I love to do that. I'm sure some of you may know what RFETS is. It's actually this weekend if you want to head downtown, Fort Myers. It's a huge event, happens every year. I know this year it was a little weird. They did a little bit of an online, and then they have the one that's this weekend. It's usually like a couple days long, and there's a lot of cool events that I got to go to last year, but with COVID, they're having it just this weekend. And ton of vendors from around the world come. You can just go look at the art. They have some food. It's actually going to be the Luminary Hotel, which is brand new, beautiful hotel that was just built downtown Fort Myers. And that was a lot of fun. We got to go to events, go to the Art Fest, take pictures, post on social media, create flyers. And then something else that we really fun that we got to do was the Edison Festival of Light. Some of you may have been to the parade before. It's so much fun. It's all at night, so everything glows, like the video that you just saw. Let me play it again. Tons of people, you know, all throughout Lee County, and actually some other businesses that are just Southwest Florida in general. They make floats, and it's a really fun time. Unfortunately, it got canceled this year because of COVID, which is really sad because it's so much fun. We got to go and got to ride in a cop car and do the parade route, and then we got to take pictures after and videos. And I wish they were doing it again this year, but you know, with COVID, everything fun has to stop for a while. Another part of my job is I work with the Fort Myers Fire and Police Department. Fort Myers Fire Department does not have a PIO, Public Information Officer, so they use me and my coworker and then my boss a lot of times for pictures. I've taken pictures of all their new recruit classes since I've been working there and gone to their recruitment ceremonies where they become actual firefighters. I've done videos with them, PSA videos. I've gone to some of their trainings. In the left corner, well, I guess it's not your left, but they did a birth simulation and I got to go to that. It was really cool. It's a little gruesome, but you don't realize that firefighters do deal with that. They have to deliver babies sometimes, you know, if you can't make it to the hospital. But they're all super, super nice. They love our ideas. You know, they've never had someone like us before come in and be like, hey, stand a little bit to the right or go down on your knees for the picture. And so they really appreciate it. And then I actually was able to get an article I wrote published in a fire service magazine, which is all about firefighters. It's not just in Florida. It's, well, they have one that's just in Florida, but they have one that's for all the states. And some of the pictures that I took got in there as well. So that was super exciting to see that. I never thought in a million years I would have an article published in a magazine. Another thing that we started doing, and they had never done this before, we created almost like a PSA video once a week with the solid waste division. Solid waste is trash and recycling pickup. So all of those big trucks that you see, that's what solid waste is. A lot of people think, oh, solid waste is like poop, you know, but it's not. It's trash and recycling. And a lot of people don't know how to recycle properly. And so we created this web series, Talking Trash with Marcia. She's amazing. I love her. She's one of the sweetest people ever. We just kind of would go over videos or go over things that people don't really know about. So we'd talk about recycling, if there was a trash change because of they don't pick up trash, Thanksgiving as well, and know what to throw. And I'm sure maybe if you've seen the give me 5 for the cart, we went over a lot of that. And it's actually really, I learned a lot too, because I try to recycle and there's some things that I didn't know that you could and couldn't recycle. But that was a lot of fun. We'd go there a couple of days a week and shoot some videos with her. And then, we all live in Florida, so we deal with hurricanes every year. This year was was really bad. We didn't really have a hurricane, but there was a lot of close calls, a lot of bad weather, as I'm sure you all know and experienced. I missed Irma. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I know the city was really stressed out when Irma happened. It was terrible. So you never know what you're going to get with hurricane season. You don't know if you're going to get 4 hurricanes or you're going to get 0. So you have to be prepared no matter what, because they come very quickly. So we were updating the website, watching NOAA, if you know what that is, the national, I can never remember what it stands for, but we were looking on their Twitter, their Instagram, their Facebook, watching the news every second of the day, trying to track these storms to see if they were going to come. We have a lot of shelters around the city of Fort Myers, so we needed to make sure we kept residents up to date on what was happening and if they were going to need to evacuate or not, because there are some mandatory evacuations within the city of Fort Myers. And just in general, with COVID, it was really hard because, you have wording that's like evacuate, you have to leave. But with COVID, they don't want you to leave unless you really, really have to, because it's less people, contact. And with shelters, it's hard to try to keep people at a distance or keep people safe and from COVID spreading when you have a ton of people in a shelter. So it was weird wording for us and trying to be like, stay in your homes if you can. But if not, here's where you can go to find shelter. These are other few posts that I've made. We had a household hazardous waste drop-off event. We did a 1-year anniversary with our website, and we just try to get people to look at our social media. We update it every day. That's one of my main job functions, is making graphics and posting to our Twitter, our Instagram, our Facebook, and our LinkedIn, along with our website. So we use Hootsuite. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that, but it's a great tool. It basically, you can post the same graphic or whatever it is on all of your platforms at the same time, and you can schedule it even a year in advance. And you can do it at the specific time too. Sorry, I can't talk. Specific time too. So like if you wanted to schedule something for March 1st at 9:00 a.m., Hootsuite gives you the opportunity to do that, and it's a great tool. These are just a few other ones. We work with a lot of our other departments. So we have a few golf courses within the city of Fort Myers. We help them get some graphics out about events that they have. And like I said, we work with our solid waste, and we try to help them with some tips and come up with social media for them to use for residents to see. And also we put it on our social media as well. And then these are some other really cool things I've done. Like I said, we work really closely with Fort Myers Fire Department. So I've got to take a lot of their pictures. I've got to go to the Luminary Hotel opening, which was amazing. It's a brand new hotel, like I mentioned before, downtown Fort Myers, and they had a huge grand opening ceremony. Our past mayor, we have a new mayor now, and then all our council members and our city manager were there, and they worked really, it's within the city of Fort Myers, and we worked very closely with them. So it was super exciting to be able to see that. I remember when I first started, it wasn't even built yet, or was just beginning to be built, and now it's open, and it's open to the public. They have a ton of delicious restaurants in there if you ever want to check that out. They also have a beautiful rooftop bar, kind of like what's a restaurant downtown that has the rooftop bar? I can never remember, but it's kind of like that. And yeah, it's open to the public, which is cool because a lot of hotels aren't really open to the public. They're restaurants. And it's just an amazing, we got to work with Hayworth PR, which was their, they work a lot with Hilton and Marriott hotels, and they do a lot of their marketing and social media. And I learned a lot from them as well. And then we've got to go on some tours of places and take pictures. We were on a little boat with one of our water specialists, and it was a very fun day, and also not, because you're in the middle of nowhere. And we were going under a tree that happened to be covered with spiders, and they all fell on top of me in the boat. And you're in this tiny little boat and you can't really go anywhere because you're on the water. So that was definitely not fun, but I'll never forget that. It's nice to get out of the office and go do things like that when we have the opportunity to do so. And then COVID happened. So all of the fun things that we were able to do stopped. We had to totally change everything, totally come up with new social media, update our website. It was crazy. I'm sure you all know. We had to come up with an action plan. I mean, we had no idea what COVID was. We had just heard about it in other countries, and a lot of us thought, oh, it's not going to come to the US. Well, surprise, surprise, it did. So we kind of had to educate ourselves, what is COVID? And we had the news on every single day, all day. We're constantly looking at the CDC and World Health Organization, and making sure our residents were updated and knew what COVID was, knew what to look for, and knew how to keep themselves safe. We created a CAT team, crisis action team, with a department head. So our fire chief, our police chief, our city manager, my coworkers, and I were on it as well. And we met every Friday. Sometimes we met twice a week, just kind of, what are we going to do? What are we going to tell them this week? Okay, this is canceled. This is canceled. Make sure, Ashley and Caroline, you guys put this out that this event's canceled. This park is closed. And it was a lot at first because you have no idea how to do this, and you're learning how to do all of this and how to handle this as it's happening. You have books, and I'm sure Winton has talked about emergency action plans before, but this wasn't in the books because this had never happened before. So we were really confused at first how to go about this and how to keep our residents safe and how to keep them updated. And making sure we had reliable sources, which was super important. And I'm sure you've had that preached to you by a lot of professors, to have reliable sources and not just think something is true because you saw it on Facebook from Karen and post that out, because we can get in a lot of trouble for posting inaccurate information. Another thing that we had to learn how to do was work from home and help our employees who had never worked from home before a day in their life figure out how to do it. A lot of people don't have computers, don't have access to Wi-Fi. So we created a whole work from home resource book for employees, which I never thought I'd ever have to do that, but just comes with the job, I guess. And so we did that, and a lot of our employees got sent home. I never got sent home, unfortunately. But a lot of our employees did get sent home, and a lot of them are still home, which is nice. I mean, obviously it's really lonely in City Hall sometimes, but it's nice that there's not a lot of people, because with more people comes risk of exposure. And, employee updates every Friday, religiously every Friday, just updating them on anything Governor DeSantis said that was important, working from home. If they needed PPE materials, we would gladly give it to them for free. Just asking them if they needed anything and letting them know what was happening. And we also did a lot of PSA videos with Fort Myers Fire Department and some Lee County doctors and health professionals to get information out. I love making videos. That's one of my favorite parts of my job, is I taught myself how to use iMovie all by myself, which doesn't seem very hard, but it kind of is. But so we quickly learned how to do that and started making PSAs. Sometimes I think people prefer to watch a video than read a long paragraph. So those actually worked really well with residents, especially residents who may not be able to read or have trouble seeing or don't have a computer necessarily. We would play them on our city TV that anyone can watch if they live within the city. And I feel like, in the nicest way possible, I'm trying to figure out how to say this, we have a lot of older residents, 70s, 80s, 90s, as I'm sure you all know. So I feel like they prefer to watch a 2-minute video versus reading a bunch of stuff. So we did I think 7 or 8 PSA videos. When COVID started happening, we were just like one after the other, let's go and get them done. These are just a few posts that I did for COVID. We kind of had to teach everyone how to properly wear masks, which you'd think, oh, it's kind of common sense, but no, it's not. People would wear them not covering their nose. And we were worried that we would have a mask mandate like some other counties do. So we wanted to make sure we had all the information about masks we could possibly put out there. So if we did have a mask mandate come into place, that they could look back and say, oh, here's how I wash my mask, or here's how I wear it, or don't touch it while it's on your face. And if you see one on the ground, don't pick it up and put it on. Things like that. It's kind of like Professor Winton has said, when you're writing social media for a company, you kind of have to write like you're writing to a kindergartner. And that's 1000% true. You have to kind of dumb it down in a way that anyone can understand it. We also have a lot of Spanish speaking residents. So we had a lot of things out in other languages. Spanish and Creole are our two main groups other than English. And so we did a lot of infographics in other languages as well, which is really cool, learning how to translate. And then once we figured out, okay, we can test for COVID, we started shifting gears to, okay, yeah, here's how you wear a mask every once in a while, but keeping residents updated on all of the different locations that they could go get tested for free at. I'm sure some of us have gotten tested before, Florida Department of Health does it. There's also a big one at CenturyLink Sports Complex, but there's also a lot of pop-up ones that were only there for a couple of hours a day. So we had to keep updated on that every single day, all day. We were communicating with Lee County and Florida Department of Health and seeing where their next pop-up location was going to be, because sometimes it would get canceled because of the weather, and sometimes they wouldn't continue at that spot. They'd move somewhere else. So that was a big part of my job for a long time, was finding where the testing was and letting residents know. These are a few graphics that I made, and we would just kind of change the graphics as we'd get new information. And so one day we were just kind of sitting in our office, and I was like, wouldn't it be great if we were able to do giveaways? Because unfortunately, some people can't afford PPE, and so personal protective equipment. And so I was like, I think it'd be great if we were able and had the budget to do so, to be able to do a mass giveaway to residents that may not be able to afford masks, hand sanitizer, things like that. And so my boss was like, that's a great idea. Let's talk it over with our CAT team. They were all on board. The fire department's like, here, I have a group of people that can help. And the police department was like, here's a group of people that will help. And so we planned this. It was my idea. And along with my coworkers, we planned the whole thing in like a week. We created social media graphics that we sent out to the public, that we put on our website, that we sent to local news stations. We had 6 days, and we did each ward, and a ward is just an area of the city. We have council members. We have 6, or 7, including the mayor. So they each are responsible for a different ward and are required to live in that ward to be able to be that council member. So we picked a ward, we did a different ward each day. And then that council member was able to come to that as well and talk to residents. We wanted to make sure we hit all areas of the city of Fort Myers. And then here's just some more communication that we put out to people. We did one at Winn-Dixie, and they were super, I love Winn-Dixie. Their employees actually came out and helped us. It was amazing. And then they brought us free food after. It was super, super nice. It was a really good time. I mean, it was a lot of work. It was early hours. I mean, 7 a.m. It was pouring a couple of days. It was super hot a couple of days, but we just wanted to make sure that we were able to provide our residents with things that they can protect themselves with. We don't think about it. I don't think about it because I can go to Target and buy a $2 mask and not even think about it, but some people aren't able to do that. So we got, a bunch of shipments in, and we had them pull up in their car, so there wasn't really any contact. We had bags made already with, a bunch of masks, and they were nice because they were reusable masks, which a lot of people really appreciated. Hand sanitizer, flyers we had printed out from the CDC, flyers that we had made with COVID information. Here is one of our mask giveaways a day. It was really nice. The fire chief was out there helping with us. He's super hands-on, and people love him. So it was really nice for him to be able to interact with the residents. And, we handed out masks as well. And it's rare that people are saying good things about the city of Fort Myers. I'll talk about that a little bit later, but people were so appreciative. People were crying, and people were like, "Oh, this is amazing." And they really, really, really appreciated it. And it makes you feel good that they appreciated it and that they're thankful. And it was nice to see, just to meet residents, and for them to meet us as well, see the kind of the faces. When you see a social media, you don't really think about, oh, who put that out, but it's nice to kind of introduce ourselves and be like, hey, we're the ones that put out all the social media. And they're like, oh, thanks for always keeping us updated. So all in all, it was a really fun time, and it was a great event, and it got us a lot of great positive media. These are a lot of different media outlets that came and did some interviews, or just came and took a few pictures. But we were actually, for once, getting positive media, if you will. It's not always easy with the city or with any government entity to get on people's good sides. So it was nice for a little bit to have positive news coming out about us. And then when we all thought COVID was kind of calming down, the vaccine happened, and my life started to get very, 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 very stressful again. We had no idea that it was happening so quick the way it did. It was very disorganized at the beginning because no one knew. I mean, you have flu shots and you have different immunizations or vaccinations you need for school. I'm sure we all have them, but you'd never have done something like this where it requires 2 doses and it requires a refrigeration. So it was very chaotic, to say the least. On a Sunday, I got a call. I was actually at brunch, and I got a call from my boss, and was like, you need to go home and get on your computer now. We're having a Zoom meeting. And I was like, okay. So I ran home, and they're like, there's going to be a pop-up vaccination site in 2 days in the city of Fort Myers at one of our parks. Here's all the information. Have a nice day. And so we were like running around like chickens with our heads cut off. We were like, what the heck? We had no idea this was happening. And happening so soon. We literally had 2 days to prepare. So we had to find people to work it. Florida Department of Health does provide their own employees, but we had to have police to monitor the lines. We had to have fire help just in case someone had been standing in line for a long time and passed out from heat or from old age, because that's the age group that's getting the vaccine right now. And so, it was just chaotic, to say the least. These were some of the graphics that I made. There was different vaccination sites all throughout Lee County. Now they've kind of gotten it together where they have one major site in Lee County instead of having pop-up sites all around Southwest Florida. And now Publix and other entities like Walgreens and Walmart are going to take it over, which is nice, because that should have happened in the first place, instead of telling the city of Fort Myers, hey, in 2 days, here you go. Because we're not doctors, we're not professionals like that, to where we can, we don't know anything about vaccines, we're government. So, but it's nice because, like Publix has a pharmacy in there, so they have people who are knowledgeable. Same with Walmart, same with Walgreens. So we're glad that that's happening soon. Publix has already started doing the vaccines. Every single Publix in Lee County is offering the vaccine, which is super nice. But with the first dose, you have to get a second dose. And some people don't realize that. Some people think it's one and done. It's not. You have to get a second dose. And there's 2 types. There's Pfizer and Moderna. And I know way too much about the vaccine now. because I've been doing this every day for a couple months now since the vaccine started. But you can't switch. There's a whole lot of logistics, but you can't switch. You can't have one dose of Moderna and one dose of Pfizer. You have to have both. And so people were very confused about it. We had a lot of calls and media outlets calling us every day, all day, asking us information. And we're not the Florida Department of Health. We were just relaying the information. And just because we had one pop-up site within the city of Fort Myers did not mean we were solely responsible for all of the vaccines happening within Southwest Florida. And so people thought that we were responsible, and we were getting really rude, mean calls about, oh, the phone line, all the appointments are already booked and the phone line's been open for 5 minutes, because that was happening and that continues to happen. They had 2,500 people call and book appointments within the first 5 minutes of the phone line being open. And the people who weren't able to get an appointment were obviously not very happy. So they were calling us. And then just kind of we had to let them know, hey, where can you get your second dose? When will you get it? It's like, I think it's like 15 days or something after. But just doing a bunch of frequently asked question posts to people, because, this is all new to us and the residents as well. These are what I was talking about, the FAQs that we did. We know CDC is a great resource. If you ever have questions about COVID, we get all of our information from them. And so we were just making sure that we would get the information out to the residents as quickly as possible, because people were starting to bang on City Hall, trying to come in and yell at us and ask questions. And obviously we don't want that. And then these are some of the lovely Facebook comments that we have gotten, and we get them every single day, all day. This is actually just from one Facebook post, and we have, thousands of comments on them. Lee County, what a mess. Too busy cleaning up dead fish. Wonderful. People are not very nice. So it's one thing I've learned while working for government is you have to have a thick skin and not take things personally. Residents are going to say whatever they want to say because they can. And you just have to learn to not take it to heart, and not, when you leave work, leave that all behind. I struggle with that sometimes, because you think, oh, I made that post and now a bunch of people are leaving mean comments and don't like my posts, and you're just doing your job. You were told to make that post. Just because a few people didn't like it doesn't mean it's a horrible post. You can't please everyone. And that's something with government. If you ever get into government or have an interest in government, that's something you really need to learn how to do fast, is have a thick skin and not let people get to you, and learn how to have your customer service voice, if you will. As much as I want to go back and comment on all of these people's comments and give them a piece of my mind, I can't. I would lose my job. So yeah. So kind of going into the cons of local government, angry residents, that's a big one. We deal with that every single day. We get death threats. We have people messaging us on all social media platforms saying how horrible we are and how we don't care about them and how we want all our residents to die. And it's never fun reading that type of message. But like I said, having a thick skin is very important. Closed-minded workers, coworkers, a big problem that I have with my job, and it's a small problem, but I'm the youngest person in City Hall that works there. So obviously I have new and fresh ideas, as well as my coworker, and we're fresh out of college. We have a lot of information that we've learned from our professors, and we have new ideas. And there's some people that have worked there for 30, 40 years, and they've been doing their job the same way for 30 years. And they kind of have the mentality of like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And yeah, that's great and all, but the world is evolving, new trends happen, and you have to stay up with the trends. It's very important to do so. If you want to be successful and you want to be you want to be a government for all people, because yeah, we do have a lot of older residents who don't even know what Wi-Fi is, but we do have a lot of younger residents. I mean, I live within the city now. My coworker and I both moved within the city, and we frequent downtown Fort Myers, and I'm sure some of you have been there as well. And so we want to make it a city for everyone, all ages, kids, our age, older. And some of my coworkers just, they don't want that. They're not open to that. They don't like social media. They think it's stupid. So it's sometimes hard getting ideas past them, and getting things done because they don't want it to happen. But that's just something very small. And sometimes I just do it and I don't really care what they're going to say, because I know it's going to benefit the residents. And that's my main job, is to communicate with residents and make sure they're in the know and they have all the information that they need. And with that, you have to play by the rules, meaning you can't just post whatever you want. It's a very strict guideline, a strict set of rules when posting. You have to use, we kind of stick to the same fonts. We have to make sure the fonts, when we're making social media graphics or flyers or whatever we make, news releases, press releases, videos, that everyone can read it. It can't be like neon yellow where like only a few people can read it. We try to stick with the same colors, like our blue and green, like our logo. And we have to make sure, like I mentioned before, that like a kindergartner would understand it, because there are some residents that are on the older side and they won't understand some lingo, I guess, if you will. But just making our graphics, making our graphics readable, and making the what we write on there, making it appropriate, making the font big enough and thick enough to where everyone can read it. We don't really use cursive at all, just because some people can't read cursive. Things so don't get done as quickly. Like I mentioned before, some people just think, I can do it whenever I want to do it. They probably need it now, but I don't really care. And so we sit on things for a while, and then we end up just doing it ourselves, because it never would get done unless we did it. You'll find that any job, though, it's not just government. You're always going to have those people who don't really care about strict timeline. So that's always frustrating. And the last thing is politics. When you work for a government, or let's say you work for a senator, or you work in the White House, whatever it is, if you're, within that kind of organization, you're going to deal with politics. There was just an election and it got messy. Things happened. People are mad that the person that they wanted for mayor didn't get picked, and then they come to our council meetings and they throw a fit. I try to stay away from all the politics. It's hard to not get involved in it when it's your job to talk about the new mayor, talk about the new council members, or listen to every meeting that the council meetings, which I do, and they usually go for like 4 or 5 hours every other Monday, or every first and third Monday. So it's hard to not get involved with it, but we try our best to kind of do our job and then leave it at work and not bring it home. It's hard, especially living in the city now, because I had to vote for the ward, and it's weird seeing a person that not saying that I did this, but the person, let's say you voted for one person and then that person doesn't get picked, and then you see the person who got that position, and you're like, it's just a little awkward that like, I didn't vote for you, but here's all the work you asked me to do. And so like I said, I just try to stay away from it as best as I can and try to think about other things. And so when I talked about mean residents, these are just a few super cute, super nice comments that we've gotten on our posts. Some of the time it's not even about the post. This was about Save the Water, and then they're talking about a park. Like, that has nothing to do with it, but it's just free speech, so they can say whatever they want on our platforms. And we kind of have to let it happen. As much as I want to go through and delete all of their comments, it's just not worth it. I don't really care unless they're saying something super unacceptable, super inappropriate, and they're using cuss words. then we'll go through and delete them. But if they're just kind of going on a rant about something, we just leave it. You know, sometimes it's better to leave it and they can see when you delete it. So I feel like that would be worse if they saw that you deleted it. And they'll probably get mad. We've done that before. When I first started working there, we had a really mean comment and I deleted it, and they saw that I deleted it, and they messaged us something even worse, that they commented on the post. So now I know better and I just leave it. This is another one. It's not even about traveling during COVID. It's about the same park. I think it's probably the same person. We have our usual people that comment. It's the same group of people. They're not even in a group together. They're all about different things, but we always know that person's going to be at the council meetings. We always know what they're going to talk about. And sometimes it's just, you just laugh it off, you know, as much as I want to help them, there's just things that are out of my reach that are not I can't do. So sometimes we get a kick out of it. Sometimes when we're bored, we read mean comments and we just laugh about it. And there are pros. There's a lot of pros. I think the pros outweigh the cons. It's great experience. Even if you're not thinking about doing government for the rest of your life, if you can have the opportunity to work or job shadow someone in government, I highly recommend it. It's great experience. I've learned so much. I had experience with government because my dad did work in government, but I've learned a lot. My boss has been a great mentor to me. And like I said, it teaches you to have a thick skin. It teaches you how to write, how to take pictures. It's taught me how to interact with people like mayors or like senators that come and speak. I've got to meet a lot of really cool people, which I'll talk about in a second. There are a few nice residents, which is not very, doesn't happen all the time, but there are a few nice residents, which make it all worthwhile. You know, when we did the mask giveaways, we had some people just come up to us and just praise us and thank us, and that makes it all worthwhile. That's why I love my job, is because some residents do really appreciate what you're doing and they let you know, and it's really humbling. And of course, you get benefits working for a local government. You know, you get health or vision, dental, and then you get a pension when you leave if you've been there for so many years, which is nice. My dad still has a pension and he hasn't worked in over 6 years, so it's pretty nice. And so these are a few of the people that I've met. I hope you all know who that is at the top, but if you don't, that is President Martin of FGCU. I got to go to an event that he spoke at, and he was an amazing speaker. He came up to Caroline and I and asked us what our majors were, what professors we had, if we liked them. He actually cared, and he was super, super, super nice. So if you ever have an opportunity to hear him speak or meet him, do so. You won't regret it. And on the left is Secretary Ben Carson. He is the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. I got to hear him speak as well. That was actually a really cool experience. A couple of days before he came, his Secret Service came and we went through the route, how he would be driving. They scoped out the building that he would be speaking at, and we got to go along with that. And it was really cool, you know, when you have someone of great importance like him come and speak. There's always risk of people trying to harm him, unfortunately, or try to riot and get in his face, you know, if he was out in public. So his Secret Service they're not messing around, and they were very scary. They're very nice, but they were very, very, very scary. If you've ever seen, you know, Secret Service with presidents, they look very similar to that. There was this woman, and she was super, super nice, but she looked like she could probably kill me with her thumb if she really wanted to. She was terrifying, but it was really cool experience to see all of that. You don't really think about that. You know, think, oh, he's just going to arrive, he's going to speak, and then he leaves. But there's just a lot of things that go into it. We drove back and forth the route. They had to check every opportunity. Oh, could a car come crash and hit us right now? Oh, no, we can't take that route. We have to go another route because it's easy for us to get in an accident. If any of you have ever driven downtown Fort Myers, you know that the traffic is absolutely insane down there, especially when he was coming and going. It was like 5 o'clock. That's right when it gets really, really bad with rush hour. So we just drove through neighborhoods, and it was really cool. I'll never forget it. And he was super nice, and he was a great speaker. And last but not least, I met Sammy Watkins, who is on his way to his second, I believe it's his second Super Bowl, but his second Super Bowl with the Chiefs this weekend. I met him. He's a Fort Myers native, if you didn't know that. He was born and raised here. He was actually in the Edison of Light parade that we were in a few months prior, and he was kind of the leader of the parade. He started it out, and I met him. He was super nice, super, super tall and big, and it was like I put my hand up to his hand, and it was like crazy. But he was super nice. I met his parents. I met his daughters, super sweet people. His parents still live in Fort Myers, so he comes back often. And I almost met Gronk and his mom. As some of you may know, Rob Gronkowski's mom lives in Miramar Lakes right by FGCU, and he comes down and sees her often. And he was coming to City Fort Myers to do something, and I saw him from afar, and I tried to push my way in there, but I didn't get the opportunity to. I'm a huge Patriots and Bucks fan, so I tried to get a picture and autograph for my dad, but it just wasn't happening. But it was really cool to meet people like President Martin or Sammy Watkins. It's not every day that you think you're going to meet an NFL pro player, so it was really fun. And that's another reason why I love my job. You never know what's going to happen. We didn't know Secretary Ben Carson was coming until a couple days before. And we were, again, running around like chickens with our head cut off, like, oh my gosh, we have to make sure we have reservations for him here and here and here. And it was very stressful, but it all paid off. And he was able to come and go safely. And so that's about government. I just wanted to talk real quick about FPRA, the professional chapter. Like Kaylee mentioned, I'm the education chair. So I'm the liaison between you all and then the professional chapter. Any questions that you all have, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm always open to send you information about FPRA professional chapter, or I've helped them with a few speakers. I've spoken. There's a lot of great networking opportunities as well with the professional chapter. I highly recommend you all join. I promise you it's worth it. Just a little background about them. It's nice because there's a lot of professionals within the chapter. We have over 100 professionals now. And Kara Winton, Professor Winton, is in FPRA as well. She's on the board with me. She's the one that got me my position. It's really weird to be interacting with her now as a colleague. I still call her Professor Winton, and she's like, you can't call me that anymore. I'm not your professor. And it's just weird calling her Kara. But it's great because you meet a ton of people. I'm kind of looking for new opportunities networking wise right now. And so I have had a few people reach out to me. And one of the best things about it is you have resources like a job bank. So if you're ever looking for a new job, or you have a friend who's looking for a job, they will have a ton of jobs to choose from within your interests. A lot of the jobs are public relations related, or communications, or marketing. So it's nice that I don't have to go through Indeed and type in communication jobs. It's just already done for you. You can get your certifications. So Professor Winton, I think she has both. I think she's APR and CPRC. I'm not 100% sure. I know she has one or both of the certifications. But that's a really nice thing to put on your resume, that you're certified professional, public relations professional. I'm trying to get mine here in the next couple of years. So I'm excited to do that. It's a great networking experience. Like I said before, you meet a ton of people. I met with the board a couple weeks ago at FGCU, and they were able to meet Heather, who is our president, and Tiffany. And they're both super nice, and everyone's just super nice, and they want you to succeed, and they want to help you, and they want to meet you, and they want to network with you, and you never know what you can get out of that. I'm currently looking for a new job. As much as I say I love my new job, I'm just looking for new opportunities. And Randy, who was the past president of FPRA, actually put me on to M&M Multimedia. Maybe a few of you are familiar with that. So I've been just checking them out, interviewing with them, but I never would have heard about that job unless Randy told me about it. And so he put in a good word for me. He sent them my resume. And now I'm on my second stage of interviews. So I was super thankful for that. And leadership opportunities, if you're on the board now or thinking about being a board member in the future, you can continue that with the professional chapter as well. Like I said before, I was never an FPRA. I wanted to be so badly, but I just wasn't able to. And now I can be an FPRA, and I can also have a leadership opportunity. Again, it looks amazing on a resume to say that you're in a FPRA, number one, and number two, to say that you're a board member, which I'm sure the board members will know it's going to look great on resumes in the future. And so if you're wondering how to join, and if you want to join, you can join now as a student. It's cheaper to do so. It is a club, professional club, so you do have to pay for it, but I promise it's worth it. You have a lot of great resources if you become a member. If you just go to FPRA you can find more information there. I kind of put the prices there. If anyone ever wants information, I'm more than happy to supply it to you. And I can't stress this enough. It's just amazing opportunity, and I highly recommend you all think about joining. And I'm sure Professor Winton will tell you too in the future about it. It's just great. You meet a lot of great people, and they're all within your realm of what you want to do, and they're all professionals, and you can talk about the same things and you have the same interests, which is super nice. And so that concludes my presentation. Thank you again. I know I talk a lot and talk pretty fast, so I hope you all thought my presentation was interesting and could understand me. As much as I try to like public speaking, I just hate it. I hate it with a burning passion. So sometimes I speak a little fast. I've had Professor Winton tell me slow down before. So, but yeah, I'm super excited to be back presenting. I'll see you all at other meetings. I try to attend everyone as I can. If you ever have any information regarding FPRA, or you just want to pick my brain, or you have questions about government PR, I would love to chat with you. My email is probably somewhere. If not, I can put it in the chat. And it's nice because I know what you all are going through. I can relate. I'm a recent grad. And so I can relate to you guys, and I can answer any questions that you may have about anything ever. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Ashley. You were an amazing speaker. I don't know what you were talking about. But yeah, with that being said, we are going to go ahead and open it up for questions.
I do want to say one thing for our members is that Ashley actually attends a lot of our meetings. So if you ever are looking for a way to get in contact with her, it is a way for you to do that through these meetings. If you just want to ask for her contact information again, if you just have a quick question to pop up, she is usually in our meetings, and we really appreciate her support.
And since you are leaving, does that mean there's going to be a new internship position available?
That's yeah. I mean, let me think about how to put this. There's some. I'm not like being fired. That's not what happening. There's some new. I'm trying to put this professionally. Our city manager, who I love and adore, he's been there for a long time. He's been with the city for over 20 years. He is great, and he was really a big advocate in getting us hired as full-time, because some people weren't down for that. He is unfortunately retiring, and they're bringing in new people. And I personally feel like the new people that they want to bring in are people that I just won't mesh well with. And that's the reason why I kind of want to leave. Also, I'm just looking for new opportunities. Not that I hate government, I love my job. But I just think it's time for me to move on. But yes, we're trying to get internships with students. Definitely something my boss wants to do. I mean, she had 2 at one time and she loved it. So eventually when we do leave, that's definitely something that she'll probably put out. I'll definitely let you guys know if my job comes available for any of you. But yes, I highly recommend interning for a couple of months if the opportunity presents itself. Whether or not you think you're going to go into government, it's just great experience. So I will let you know if that happens. I'm sure she will want interns and it's paid, so that's super nice.
We will definitely keep an eye out for that information and share it with everybody if and when it comes about. So does anybody else have any other questions?
I have a question. Thank you so much, Ashley, for your presentation. This is actually my first FPRA meeting.
Oh, welcome.
But I wanted to ask you, because I saw that you transferred from FSW, what your experience has been, well, or was like as a transfer student. I just finished my AA in the spring and just finished my first semester at FGCU this past fall. So I'm just interested to see what your experience was like.
Right. That's a great question, and welcome to FPRA. I'm sure they're glad to have you. But when I first transferred, I was a little nervous. It's weird coming in as a junior or whatever grade level. I'm sure you're a junior as well. And so you've already seen students make connections with other people, and like, for example, like a sorority, it's weird coming in as a junior. Not that I was in a sorority, but it would be weird coming in as a junior because you're like, these people already have their connections and their cliques, if you will. I was just nervous that these people who have been in classes together for 2 years were going to be like, who the heck is this new girl in our classes? I never really felt that way. I was able to make friends, which was nice. The good thing about FPR or FGCU is there's people of all ages at FGCU. I'm sure, well, you don't really have in-class or in-person classes right now, but I had classes with 50-year-olds, 18-year-olds, and everyone was really always accepting, especially within the PR world. The PR professors are all amazing, and they just want you to learn and they want you to succeed. And so when I told them I had transferred and I'd never been to FGCU, I'd never been to a big university before, it's a little nerve-wracking seeing like all these people, like I said, have their cliques and know each other for 2 years and maybe lived in the dorms together, because I had never done that either. But I never really felt unwelcomed. Everyone was super, super nice. And it's just a weird transition to come from such a small school where you have maybe 15, 30 people in your class to like 100 or 200 people in your class. That was, I think, the biggest thing for me. Was like, I have a class with like 40, like more than 40 people. This is weird because like at FSW, you have such small class sizes. But I feel like with PR, you have those smaller class sizes as well. So it wasn't that much of a difference. I mean, there's probably 10 people more than there was at FSW, but when I was taking other classes that like a colloquium class or I'm trying to think of another class, but when you're sitting in this huge auditorium full of 100 students, it's like, oh my God, I'm not used to this. But I would just say, use your professors. They're there to help you. I think everyone in PR pretty much that I've ever met is super nice, and they're always willing to help and answer any questions that you may have. When I first came to campus, I met my coworker, Caroline, and I was like, I have never been in a university setting like this. You all have had 2 years to learn how to do this. And I had moved because I was living in Fort Myers by FSW. And she really helped me and introduced me to a lot of the professors. And so finding people like that and using your professors and joining clubs like FPRA, where you're going to meet people, is definitely a great start.
Yeah, and just going off of that, I think hopefully you'll find, like I know most of us have, that we have some of the most amazing PR professors and just some of the most amazing professors that I have ever had. And that the PR major is fairly small.
Mhm.
So a lot of your PR classes, like Ashley said, are still going to be small. And with that, you're going to have a lot of the same people in all of your PR classes and a lot of the same professors, because we only have 3 or 4 PR professors. So I think hopefully you will really find that you will find a community in your classmates and in your professors, just because you spend all of your time with them. um, and how do you say your name, if I can ask?
Yes, I'm so sorry I didn't introduce myself
No, you're okay.
before I asked the question, but my name is Jalexia.
Alexia. Okay, yeah, we're super glad you're here. We hope you can also find a community in FPRA and continue to be involved. We love hearing that new people are joining us. So, does anybody else have any other questions?
Ashley, I have a question for you, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
What was, just a quick question, is it Haywire? What was that Hilton?
Hayworth, like Hayworth. They're amazing. They're based, I think they're in Sarasota area. If you ever had the opportunity to work with them, they're amazing. Nori Gutierrez is who we worked with at the city. She is beyond nice, and you could look them up on social media and see what they do, but that's probably got to be one of the coolest jobs ever. They just go around hotels and market for hotels, and like, oh, they get to stay at the hotel to see what it's like and then be able to post about it, like, oh, that's terrible. But they're great. I actually tried to get a job with them when I hadn't quite decided if I wanted to be full-time yet. I reached out to them, and unfortunately they had laid a few people off for COVID, so they weren't hiring, but they're great. So if you ever want to get in contact, Nori would be more than happy to talk to you. I sat down and had coffee with her, and I just picked her brain about a few things because she's great. She has a lot of PR background. And so if you ever want to look her up on LinkedIn, I know she'd be more than happy to speak to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it, Ashley.
Yeah, use LinkedIn. It's a great.
I don't even have one
great
yet.
thing.
I know. I need one. I'm really bad about it. I need to get on
I
that.
have a LinkedIn, but mine is so outdated. But I have Professor Winton now for PR writing and PR strategy.
Get your LinkedIn
So
is
I'm not even stressed because I'm like, Professor Winton's back. I'm like, it's so outdated. I think Amanda actually tried to connect with me recently, and I was like, I don't even want to accept because it's so outdated.
Yeah, I highly recommend having a LinkedIn. If you don't think you're going to use it, you're going to use it, because not only do they have, you can network, you can find jobs, and you can connect with someone. So I was doing an interview the other day, and I connected with that person right on LinkedIn, and we kind of had a casual conversation before I went to the interview, and it made me feel a little more, didn't make me stress out as much as I usually do about interviews. And you can put bios on there, you can put your resume or bio resume, you can put things that you've made, things that you've written. My gosh, it's been a long day. And that way they can kind of see what you've done before they ask you for an interview. When you have Professor Winton, like you do now, she's going to make you upload a few things like that. And I never had a LinkedIn before her class, and I was like, ugh, it's whatever. I have an older sister who's 30, and she was like, no, dude, you have to be on LinkedIn. You have to. It's great. Because with COVID comes new ways of interacting with people and new ways of networking with people. And a lot of people have switched to LinkedIn, where they post their jobs. You can look at the job description and interact with people on there. And so I highly recommend keeping your LinkedIn after Professor Winton's class, because I know some people just delete it, because it is a great resource.
Yes, it really is, and you will come out of Winton's class with one if you don't have one already, or
whether you like it or not, she's gonna make you make that
going to have
LinkedIn.
one, whether you want one or not. Does anybody else have any other questions?
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you feel like leaving government PR, moving into possibly or another field, what do you feel like what do you feel like something you learned from government PR that you'll take to all of your other jobs?
That's a really great question. And this kind of goes into why I chose to get my master's and what I'm going to get it in eventually when I find the time to do so. One of the main job functions that I have and that I talked about was website design. I never thought in a million trillion years that I'd be a web designer and that I'd be able to do what I do with the website. And that's why I actually want to get my master's in web design. And so that's a big thing I'm going to take away where I'm looking at working next, M&M Multimedia. That's kind of one of their main things they do is they create websites for clients. So they've done Around the Clock's website. If you go to that gym or you know what it is, they're working with Lee Health now. And if you ever have any opportunity to take a web design class or just look at some YouTube videos, I recommend it. A lot of times you can kind of play the system and be like, oh, I have web design experience. You wouldn't have to hire an outside contractor to do it. And sometimes you could get more pay by saying, the more experience you have, the higher pay you're able to get. So if you have that under your belt and you can work on a company's website for free, obviously they would pay you, but instead of having to hire an outside entity to do it, that's always great. Another thing is social media, not only for professionally, but for personally. I love social media. I love creating things. I love doing fun little stories. So I've learned a lot of tricks and tips from taking classes or just from my coworker, because it's nice having a coworker who knows things that you don't, and vice versa. So she's taught me a lot. I've taught her a lot. That's something else I'll take. And then just personal or professional skills, being able to talk to someone. I would never think in a million years I could go up to Sammy Watkins and have a conversation with him, because he's so big. And you see him on TV and then you see him in person, you're like, holy crap, it's like seeing a celebrity in person. And instead of freaking out externally, I only freaked out internally. And was able to have a professional conversation with him, along with mayors or senators or President Martin. It's taught me how to be professional and be professional really quickly. I was still in school when I started, and I had to learn real quick how to interact with those types of people, with our fire chief and our police chief. I mean, they're intimidating. They're not mean, but it's when you have someone that's responsible for that many people, like a police chief, it can be intimidating at times. So I had to learn quickly how to look at them as a peer and not be afraid of them and be afraid of speaking with them. And that goes with anything in life. I mean, knowing how to speak to people and have good eye contact, especially when you go into interviews, not looking down, speaking to them like you're speaking to a friend, making eye contact. Like I said, it's super important to do that. And I think when you're in the government or any job really, but especially the government, I have to be professional at all times, because everything is public record that I do. So any text that I send on my work phone, any email that I send that's on my work email is public record. So someone could come to the city of Fort Myers or email and say, I want every email Ashley's ever sent to someone on her city email. And it's over 2,000 emails, but they can have that. So if I'm not being professional and I'm using bad words or I'm talking badly about someone, they can see that. So that's something that I'm going to take with me in life and use it for the rest of my life, because you never know who's watching, and you never know, going on to that, never know who's watching. They could be someone that's going to interview you in a couple of years, and they saw you act a fool out one time and they're like, I saw that person, I'm not going to hire them. And if I can leave you all with one super important thing, and I've talked to Kaylee about this before, and I think I talked to you about it, Alexa, too. Please make sure your social media is appropriate. I can't stress that enough to you. I watch my boss, my main boss, the city manager, go through his employees' social media. Like, it happens. It's so real. They do go through your social media. They go on your LinkedIn. They check everything out. I get notifications when people look at my LinkedIn, and my boss, like city manager, he looks at my LinkedIn like once a week, and I'm like, I go to him, I'm like, what do you want to see on my LinkedIn now? Like, I can see that you're looking at my LinkedIn. But they check your social media. I cannot stress that enough. If any of you have ever seen the Ellen show, she'll sometimes like bring up people's social media pictures from their Facebook or something like that. Because even if you think, oh, I'm private, there's always a way. There's always a way they will find out. And they'll make fake profiles to spy on you, I guess. So please, please, please make sure your social media is appropriate. Think of it as like your dad's going to look at your social media, or like your grandma. If they're going to be upset with what you're posting, I probably would take that down if I were you, especially now if you're trying to go out into the professional world and get a job. They will look.
Yeah, that is really good advice. We've had many speakers give that exact same advice, because people really don't get jobs because what is on your social media. And you might have had a really fun night at a party and want to post about it, but is that one fun night and those 2-3 pictures worth not getting a job that you really want? And the answer is hopefully no.
Just post it on Snapchat, it'll go away after a day. Save it to your memory, save it to your camera roll to look back at laugh. But just if you're thinking about posting it on a platform like Facebook or Instagram, where a lot of people have access to it, just don't do it.
All right. Last call for questions. All right, I'm gonna take that silence as a no. So thank you everyone for coming. If you haven't already, make sure you put your information in the comments so we can count you for attendance. And just a reminder that we do have our Cards for Kids event next week. We will be making posters and cards for the kids at Golisano Children's Hospital for Valentine's Day to hopefully make their Valentine's Day a little brighter. We will be following all the CDC and school guidelines. You will get 2 volunteer hours for coming to the event, and we will have prepackaged food and drinks for you to enjoy. And if you want more information on that or on anything that we do, follow our Instagram at FGCU FPRA. You can always reach out to us there if you have any questions about anything. Alexa is the one who runs that, and she is amazing. She will always answer you super fast. Yeah, and she's just amazing with that. So thank you everyone for coming, and we hope to see you next week at Cards for Kids. And board members, please stay on for a moment.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Bye.